right, thank you so much everyone for being here. I wanted to wait just a couple more minutes to see who else might join us, but I'll go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Rebecca Helm. I'm the music director at GoGo Allegro School of Music, and I'm so glad that you have joined us this evening. This is actually the first time we've done a parent meeting, and so I'm really excited. I think that the goal of this is to really make everyone feel supported and that they have a community. Although the majority of our students have in-home lessons and they're all individually taking their lessons in their own homes, I really want everyone to feel like they have a support system via email or via phone, wherever that might be most convenient for you, where your teacher and administration and myself we're all there for you, and so that you can better understand kind of what would best help your child. That's ultimately all of our goals, is to support them through this process. So like I said, my name is Rebecca. I'd like to also introduce today Melena Knox, who is our administrative assistant. And she is here today as well. It's just to put maybe a face with a name of emails that you've gotten or things like that. Hopefully many of you are planning on participating in the upcoming in-person or even Zoom performance here in a couple weeks for the holidays, and she will be there as well to help set up. So she is very much behind the scenes, and we are very appreciative of her. So thank you, Melina, for all of your work and for being here tonight. We have a couple teachers here as well, and then some very dedicated parents. So once again, thank you for being here and your dedication to your child's music education. So I also want to mention we will end, if not before 7:45, strictly at 7:45. I know it's so busy. I know everyone has lots of things going on right now, and I definitely respect your time. But I hope you'll find this information helpful as well. And I hope that this is something that you will be able to take the information and kind of help you out at home. So let's go ahead and get going. All right. So here we are. I just wanted to just get going with our goals for today, some topics that we're going to be covering. Primarily are these bullet points here, our calendar for the coming school year or the current school year, performance opportunities, and readiness. That's often a question that we get, is my child ready for these performance or these opportunities? Effective practicing and helpful hints, and this is for all ages and levels. some things that might help at your house. Instrument purchase, upgrades, and sizing. And then going through some of the questions asked on the Google form and some FAQs, some logistical kind of things that we think would be helpful. I hope also we didn't touch on we may not touch on specifically every question that was asked in the Google form when signing up. I hope that, I feel like everything was probably integrated into the meeting today. And so I tried to, make sure everything was touched on in one way or another. So if for some reason you still have a question at the end of this meeting, please don't hesitate to let us know. And that information is at the end of this presentation as well. So here is our calendar for this school year. As you can see, we had a couple of performances. I know there were a couple people here that participated in either the in-person or the Zoom Halloween performance a couple of weeks ago. That in-person performance actually was our first in-person performance since December of 2019, and it was something actually almost like an emotional thing for teachers and students alike. So it was really wonderful to get back into things for in-person. So we're really excited. We are resuming another in-person performance at the Chestnut Hill Mall on December 11th. And this was always in years past a very, very popular venue for performances. It's very festive. The mall is decorated for the holidays, and Santa Claus is there for photos and things like that. And so it's a really fun time of the year to be there. And so we actually rent out a portion of the mall for a few hours and then have people come in 45-minute increments. So I hope that if you haven't already signed up for that, or the Zoom option, which would be the day after, to please discuss with your teacher and try to get on board. It should be really fun. Um, we also hope to have a Valentine's Day performance in February, something festive as well. And we always have our formal spring recitals in either late May or early June. As of right now, as I'm sure this is not a surprise to anyone, the venues are yet to be secured. Typically, they would all be secured at this point. But for right now, especially in our very safe state of Massachusetts, no venues are actually really renting out at this time. So hopefully things such as the Weston Music Fest that you see on the second column there at the Weston Public Library will be able to be resumed in person, and our spring formal recitals as well, resuming in person. The spring formal recitals are really fun. The kids get a participation trophy, and we really try to make it a really big end of the year celebration. You'll see some things with asterisks by them on the second column, and these are for more advanced or higher level students. So this is something that hopefully long term you'll be interested in participating in, and something that either myself or your teachers can discuss a little bit more in depth. As of right now, even those details for those competitions for the spring are still on hold, so I really can't share any specifics on that. I do not know that any of the Royal Conservatory of Music examinations are currently being held online until further notice, so those are all virtual at this time. You'll also see at the bottom of the first column the performance clubs, and we are really hoping to get this going again. These are actually right up many of your alleys, I think, for newer or younger or less experienced students that may just want to get their feet wet with what is a performance like? What does this even mean? And those are really almost more of like a brief workshop of sorts where the child gets to experience a snapshot of what a performance would look like, and to have a little coaching along the way. We previously had these about every month or every 2 months prior to COVID. And they were always held in retirement homes in the area, a very nurturing, kind, supportive audience. And we would learn for the performers how to bow, how to be seated, how to be a good, performer, and also how to be a good audience member when your friends are performing, how to applaud, how to stay, very still and quiet and be respectful. So hopefully we will be able to resume those as soon as possible. My fingers are crossed for the spring that we'll be able to offer those performance clubs again. But we do try to make all of these performances really enjoyable for everyone, and hope that we try to have goodie bags or little kind of give out swag of sorts to make it fun and enjoyable for the kids to feel like they got some kind of something out of it to be able to participate. So the next thing is oftentimes our families ask, oh, well, my child just started lessons. We can't possibly be ready to perform. We're not of that level. And to be honest, we would love for you to perform. We welcome all ages and levels. If it's something that in the previous calendar had the asterisk next to it, that would be something else that would be per your instructor's recommendation and something to talk about. If that's something even in the future that you'd like to look towards, that's something you would likely, it would be helpful for you to go ahead and discuss with your teacher if that's something long-term you'd like to look at. But for any of these other events, all ages, and we've had ages as young as 3 years old, and our adult students are all welcome. So we do ask that you discuss with your instructor ahead of time. Discuss with your student ahead of time. Yes, believe it or not, a lot of parents just kind of sign up and their kids don't even know what they're doing. So it's important to have that open communication with your child and the instructor as well, to ensure that there will be something ready in time for the performances. So that's ultimately our goal, is we want the kids to feel confident, and we want them to feel a sense of encouragement, and so we want them to be ready, obviously. So to make sure that their repertoire is ready and ready to perform, that their performance etiquette, such as knowing how to bow and walk up to the piano and be seated at the piano and things like that they have those things down prior to signing up for these events. We also suggest, of course, practicing for performances for family and friends, whether that's in person at your house or on FaceTime or something like that. So all these things your teacher can also suggest, but ultimately, we do feel like this is performances. We offer so many at our school We really feel that they're a huge motivator and a wonderful opportunity to set some goals and to motivate them to prepare for something. So we strongly recommend participating in performances. So I hope that you will consider this. So leading up to performances, we do have to practice, and that's how we're going to feel confident. Some of the questions that we get are, what do I do? What am I supposed to, what are my expectations? What should I do about this? So let's go over some helpful things that you may or may not have considered. Kind of some tricks of the trade that we typically like to go by. So making a practice schedule that is consistent. So consistency is key. And I want you to think about, as adults, when it's time to go to the gym and maybe it's the new year and you're feeling like, I really need to, it's a new year, it's a fresh start. You're not going to get on the treadmill for 2 hours. That's not going to be helpful, because then you won't be able to go back the next day. You're going to be really burnt out. So think about that on a child's perspective. So just starting off very slowly and being consistent. So that's going to be your best bet, is just to do a little bit at a time, perhaps gradually increase, but building that consistency, just like brushing their teeth or taking a bath, things like that, that just kind of works with your schedule. You want to make sure, of course, and I know this is not a parenting meeting, but positive reinforcement is always going to be your best bet. And so something that you can do, a practice log for the kids to be able to see their progress of practice. Maybe that's with stickers. Maybe it's a calendar of sorts where they can log their time, their minutes practice. It's important for, as adults, we may see things and not obviously, think about, I need to actually, tell them that I'm noticing how well they're doing, and to notice their achievements and to mention that to them and to praise them. So that's very important. Setting a reward system. If you practice every day this week, or whatever your goal may be, 2 days this week, 3 days this week, and kind of setting that up. Certain things such as, if you practice 3 days this week, you can decide what we have for dinner on Friday, or you can decide what we have for dessert, or you get an extra dessert, or things like that. For reward systems, it's all about, it varies greatly on the family and, and kind of what's already on course for your family. But, setting up something like that can be very beneficial. Making it a game. Be flexible with the order. So let's say that your teacher gives you 2 or 3 different things to practice over the course of the week. So a fun game to do would be write down those things on little pieces of paper and draw them out of the hat, so that the child feels like they're able to kind of be in charge, or that fate is in charge of the order that they're practicing. And this is the next point, is something that has happened actually in students that I've worked with, and making practice a punishment. And that was kind of a surprise to me, but something that, I would suggest never making it a negative thing. Like, well, if you don't sit and eat your broccoli, then you have to practice more. So that's probably not the best method to kind of roll piano practice or music practice or singing practice into that same kind of negativity. As adults, we can see things much beyond. We're wiser in terms of being able to see the bigger picture of things, and to remind our children of that is important as well. So it's important for us to, we have lessons on a weekly basis, and if you're just looking week to week, then you may be thinking, I've been stuck on this piece, or your child's feeling like they've been stuck on a certain piece or exercise or something for a couple weeks. But if you think about, where were you at the last spring recital? Where are you at this holiday recital? And then trying to see these bigger picture, like, wow, well, if we think about it in those longer, bigger picture terms, you've improved a lot, so it's important to try to draw their attention to this as well, and to see the bigger picture of, as we all know, learning is not a straight line, and it is, it ebbs and flows. And to adapt these views, onto the child and their stage of learning, their age, and where it kind of meeting them. Thinking about this long-term view, I think many parents of mine in particular often feel that, you know, when we're born as musicians, that we've always wanted to do this. For example, we were born wanting to be a musician, and that's not the case. And I know that I could, you know, ask any other teacher or any other musician that it takes a lot of work. And so this is something that, you know, I think that we all have to remember that it's just like learning anything that's worth learning. It takes time and it takes patience. And there are days when we all get frustrated, and that's okay. And that's life. So the next bullet point is to start gradually. So just to, like I said, just start with a couple days, try to build in that consistency. And your expectations should be appropriate depending on the age and your schedule. So that's something else that it's hard to really put in an exact number of minutes depending on your lifestyle, depending on your, you know, your arrangement of things. And I know that many kids have so many activities throughout the week that this is something that we have to be cautious about, of our expectations that they have with homework and things like that. So it's hard to say it in a precise number, but something that's appropriate for their age and their level, and that will work with your schedule. One other thing is, you know, to find a time, maybe it's before school, maybe it's after school, maybe it's while you're making dinner, maybe it's before bed, whatever it is, just to try to, you know, fit it in, as many, you know, just bringing in that consistency. If you can get up to 5 days a week, that would be ideal. Even if it's 5 or 10 minutes at 5 days a week, it's better than sitting there 1 day a week for like an hour and then there's frustration. Our lessons are in 30, 45, and 60-minute increments. And they should, this is a reminder that they should grow with the child's progress. So for example, you know, it's fine for our, you know, 30 minutes is the smallest amount of time that we have, and that's fine for beginners. But as they progress, you know, keep that open door of discussion with your instructor, that it may be more appropriate to be able to get through the things that they need to get through. Their pieces are getting longer. Their focus is also, you know, able to get longer, that those should grow with the children as well. All right. So just keep that in mind. We have, you know, some people that think that a high schooler would be appropriate for 30 minutes, and that wouldn't necessarily be the case. All right. One little piece of, you know, here we have a quote of Mozart basically saying, you know, he still was practicing his art as the genius that Mozart was. He still felt like it never became easy to practice and to always be working and creating his art. So just something to keep in mind, that this staple of a person that we feel like is, you know, one of the most intelligent people on the planet, you know, one of the pure prodigies, even felt like practice was sometimes a chore and something that was hard, and that's okay. If it's worth learning, it's worth spending the time on. And the frustration sometimes, or kind of the struggle, is what makes us feel that, kind of giving the sense to our children of kind of like you get out what you put in, right? And really understanding that. And that's what performances are about as well. So let's talk really quickly about instrument purchase, upgrades, and sizing. And there are some questions depending on the instrument that you have, whether it's a keyboard or piano, whether it's a woodwind, brass, or string instrument. This can vary. So this all depends on what instrument you're looking for, the instrument quality you're looking for, and kind of where your child is in their learning. So, for example, if someone who's just starting out an instrument, it may be most appropriate to rent an instrument depending on the instrument. However, as they advance, it's something you're going to want to kind of check in with your teacher, check in with their level, and make sure that it's still the most appropriate option. Making sure instrument upkeep and cleaning, their mouthpieces and strings changed regular. So string instruments still need bow rehairs. They still need to be changed. The strings need to be changed. These things get old and they have to be maintained. Mouthpieces such as reeds and things like that on reeded instruments, they need to have many of those. They're going to break, they're going to dry out, they're going to need to get new ones of those. And the same thing even for a piano. So that's something else to consider if you're thinking about, is this an acoustic? Do I want an acoustic option? Do I want a keyboard option? If you have an upright or a grand piano, it will need to be tuned regularly, usually about twice a year. I typically suggest when the seasons change and when they're settled in a certain season. So once our heat's on for good in the winter or fall, and then once our AC is on, like in the late summer, late spring or early summer. So that's something that you have to keep in mind as well. For our piano students, it's important. Not all keyboards are equal, and your piano student, if you have a piano student, they will be performing on a full-size grand piano, at the very least an upright, but typically all of our venues as of right now always have a grand piano. That means they're going to have the full-size keyboards of the 88 keys, and so there are certain things that we suggest to be able to have so that when they show up to a performance or to an event or even to someone else's house, they have an idea of what they're looking at. If they're used to a 66 key keyboard or something like that, and then suddenly, and that's what they've been practicing on and taking their lessons on, and then suddenly they show up at a performance and they've got all 88 keys, they may not even know where middle C is, and they're already kind of flustered or excited about the event. And then that kind of, so just keep this in mind. So the minimum requirements that we suggest for keyboards, if you go with a keyboard, if you go with an upright or a grand, you've got the full-size keyboard. It's impossible to get anything but 88 keys. But if you're going to go with the keyboard, to go with the minimum of 88 keys, that's the full size. Touch sensitivity, which means that they can play with dynamics or the loud and the soft, depending on the way that the keys are touched. And weighted keys, that's very important as well. So the weighted keys, I've actually seen keyboards that are so sensitive and so light that you can, blow on them and they create a sound. So make sure that it's got the weighted keys. It makes it feel more like a real piano, an acoustic piano, a grand piano, where there's actually some inner workings going on, that they're having to press the hammer and hit the string to create the sound. That's where the weighted keys come from. Also, a piano bench. We discovered during COVID, when everyone was at home doing lessons on Zoom, what the kids were all kind of playing on, and they were on all sorts of things like computer chairs with wheels and arms and all sorts of stuff. So you want a proper piano bench, which means it doesn't have any arms on it. It's going to be the correct height for them. All right. And just the reminder of the necessary tunings if you do decide to go with a grand or an acoustic piano. If you're looking into rental options, it depends on, we suggest a couple of places depending on the instrument that you're going for. There's going to be a variety of insurance options. They're going to be able to properly size for the student. So as you can see here, Johnson Strings in Newton Upper Falls, Music and Arts for wind and brass instruments in Newton Center, and Steinert & Sons in Newton for pianos or keyboards. And then guitars, we suggest Guitar Center or Amazon. These are typically purchased and not rented just because of the nature of the instrument themselves. They're just a little bit less expensive, so it's not really typically worth it to rent. All right, so we're to our logistics and frequently asked questions, and here we kind of incorporated some of the questions if you submitted to the on the Google form when signing up. So it is automatic. Right now we're in the middle of our fall semester or fall session, and it's going to be automatic re-enrollment into our spring, which begins the middle of January. If you have any requests to change lesson times for the spring session, we ask that you let us know those by December 1st. We cannot guarantee, particularly with in-home lessons, we cannot guarantee that your teacher will be available on any other day at any other time, but we'll obviously do our best if you need to make that change, and we'll let you know kind of the process. For summer lessons, so we will have some summer lesson packages, And this should give you some flexibility through the summer. Begins right when our spring session ends and runs through like Labor Day weekend, right when our fall will pick back up again. So that enrollment will begin in May, when you should know if the kids are doing, sleepaway camp or camps and vacations and things like that. You should be able to purchase packages that you can kind of be flexible around your schedule. This also gives some flexibility to instructors and teachers as well. For our fall session, and I know it's hard to think about fall already, but fall session we'll be talking about actually, you'll get, as current students, you'll have priority scheduling. We'll start actually scheduling in April for fall, and then we'll open it up to prospective students starting in May. So there will be a period of time that you'll have priority for sticking at your same lesson time or with the same teacher and things like that. And why should kids have all the fun? We absolutely do teach adults. We had so many adults pick up during the pandemic. I think you would be really surprised. They don't always perform at performances. It's not required. You're invited to, of course. But we do teach adults. We love teaching adults. And what better way to show your enthusiasm and support to learn right alongside your child. So just let us know if you're interested in anything like that. How can I reach my teacher? So for anything administratively, scheduling, whatever that might be, if it's like an admin question, all that would go to Milena at the admin@gogoallegro.com email address. If you'd like to reach your teacher about something specifically education related, sending them a video of your child or asking them a specific question and you weren't able to catch them at the lesson, if you email the info@gogoallegro.com and then in the subject line just put the teacher's attention to the teacher's name, it will be able to be delivered right to them. And the same thing for their return message to you as well. I think we kind of touched a lot of this for what's the appropriate amount of time for my child's age and level. And I think it really is, consistency is key. And I think that's our primary kind of goal, is just to kind of get them going. Start low and slow and gradually increase. And once they start to see, when they put in the work and they're starting to see the progress that they're making, and that's the positive reinforcement that they will likely need. COVID-related reminders is, this is just a reminder on oops, sorry, I went back. Apologies. COVID-related reminders would be just a reminder that regardless of the fact that some children might have had their first shot and might be getting their second shot in the next couple of weeks, we are still requesting everyone is still wearing their mask in the household. I think we all have to remember, and it may not seem obvious when the teacher's in your home, but the teachers are going home to home to home to home. And so it really is important that we're just keeping everyone as germ-free as possible. Essentially, if your teacher becomes symptomatic, then it means everyone has to go online for that certain period of time. So it really is, if your child is symptomatic, we do request that the lesson is held online. We would really rather, especially as we enter the long winter season, to err on the side of caution and to be able to keep our teachers healthy and your families healthy and everyone else's family, because over the course of a day, there could be as many as 8 or 10 homes that a teacher might visit, and so you can think about how quickly something could spread, especially right now. So if you have any additional questions, I am always reachable at the email address at director@gogoallegro.com. Milena, our administrator, is always reachable at the email admin@gogoallegro.com. We are also just a phone call away. I know you have all of that information. One thing I think I missed, I'm just realizing, is I missed out on mentioning our really fun 100-day practice challenge that's going to be coming up. I think I missed that point on this slide. And that's going to be starting after the holiday season. I think we're all too scattered and all over the place to be able to have too much consistency with like practicing every day for our children. But it should be really fun. We did this last year as well, and it's kind of geared towards the winter months when we're all kind of stuck at home, and it's a goal of practicing 100 days in a row. And if you're able to do it, then you get a medal. So something to be able to work towards. And I feel like it's perfect for where we live when it's kind of during the months of January and February and March a little gray, and we could use something to kind of keep us going. So anyway, I hope everyone found this information helpful, parents. Once again, my name is Rebecca, and Milena is here as well. If you have any additional questions, please do let us know. We are, I hope everyone has a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. No lessons from, I hope you received the information about, all on our calendar about no lessons from Wednesday through Sunday next week. So everyone can celebrate the holiday. It's our first days off since Labor Day. So I think we're all looking forward to a little bit of time off and a little breather. And I hope that your Thanksgiving is safe, and if you're traveling, to remain as safe as possible. And we look forward to seeing you hopefully at some of the events that we have scheduled, some of the performance events, and to keep your kids really loving music and really being motivated. And just know that Milena and I are just an email or a phone call away, and we really appreciate your support towards your child's music education.